Welcome to the 2013 Alan M. Boyden Lectureship here at PPMC. My name is Nick Cockler. I'm Senior Ethicist with the Providence Ethics Center, and we are responsible for bringing our guest speakers here today. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to invite Dr. Elizabeth Stevens to make a brief announcement.
Thank you so much. So thank you. I just wanted to mention to the group, there's a group of physicians here at Providence who are interested in putting together a mindfulness program for providers. We're looking to launch something in March, so if what you hear today is intriguing and you have some curiosity, it is absolutely no commitment, but there's a sign-up sheet on the table with Stephanie that you can put your name and email address, and I'd be happy to contact you about our program that will be coming up in the spring. Again, no commitment, but if you're curious, we would be happy to share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you. As this is actually the first time the Boyden Lectureship has been here at PPMC, I want to share a few words about Dr. Boyden and the lectureship. Dr. Boyden was a well-respected and renowned surgeon in local and national arenas who worked at Providence St. Vincent Medical Center for over 48 years. The Boyden Lectureship promotes holistic approaches to and excellence in patient care. It is a forum to explore aspects of medicine, the humanities, and ethics to enrich and challenge health professionals. The lectureship brings to Providence experts whose ideas are inherent in the notion of integration. Lecturers need not be directly associated with the field of medicine, but should be committed to the basic tenets of the professional-patient relationship: trust, empathy, faith, sincerity, honesty, sorrow, and love, that do not change regardless of how society or the government views healthcare. This lectureship is made possible by the generous contributions of donors to the Providence St. Vincent Medical Foundation. I learned of our distinguished speakers while attending a behavioral science and family medicine conference in Chicago, and I was immediately impressed and struck by their plenary presentation. This dynamic duo's message resonated with me, and I thought it would be a perfect fit for the Boyden Lectureship. Among other achievements and accolades, let me share with you that Dr. Donal MacCoon is a clinical psychologist from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. That's right, there's more than one UW out there. He has published and is currently doing research on mindfulness and sustainable well-being, which was the subject of yesterday's noontime open forum, which is available on EventCast. Dr. Dave Rakel is a physician and founding director of the University of Wisconsin program in integrative medicine and tenured associate professor in the Department of Family Medicine. He has received NIH funding to study the clinician effect and to incorporate healing modalities into medical school curricula. His team was awarded a contract by the Veterans Health Administration to educate VA clinicians across the country towards a personalized, proactive, and patient-driven cultural shift in the delivery of healthcare, which was the subject of a panel discussion last night with Providence leadership. To enhance the opportunity for dialogue, we have reserved this room an extra 30 minutes for Q&A. So I invite you to stay after the time is up to continue the conversation. Please join me in welcoming Drs. MacCoon and Rakel.
It's good to be here.
I like dynamic duo.
Yes.
You know?
And another thing we're going to talk about is what Nick said, which is part of your mission, is sorrow and love. And that love, that love word doesn't come off our tongue easily in academia. We have to use different words like unconditional positive regard, you know. If we say that, it's okay, we can study it. But this is an opportunity for us to go back and forth and tell you nothing you don't know already. This is something I would argue that intuitively we all know this to be true. But our system has gotten to a point where it's not encouraged to flow freely. So we're going to have some fun with you. We're going to share some science with you. I'm his groupie, but he's the most awesome, most awesomest. See, I'm fluttered already. Musicians and songwriters. So you're going to be able to get a taste of that as well. But this is what we're talking about. You know, when we saw this billboard, this is exactly what we're talking about. How we care. So how does our presence actually influence the outcomes that we want to achieve through our art, through our work? And the hypothesis that I hope you come out of this with, that Donal and I want to stress, is that you, the ritual and ceremony of you and another human being, is more powerful than what you prescribe. Or to look at another way, can really enhance the outcomes and the positive effects of what you prescribe. Now, the reason we like to hang out together is that we don't see life the same way. Donal teases me because sometimes I see the glass as a little half full. And Donal, how do you see it?
Well, you tease me because I'm accurate.
We were at the Minneapolis airport. We had a layover. We talked about what we wanted to talk about, so we thought that was a good opportunity. But this was the other risk.
So the deal here is if you see the glass is half empty, you preserve what's left, right?
I saw it as so good, I wanted to drink it faster. But let's look at some data, right? Let's look at people with established heart disease, and those who see the glass as half full are 42% less, have a 42% less risk of dying of heart disease.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think that the people who actually recognize their symptoms sooner are over here and they never get to this graph.
So as you can see, the point we're trying to make here is that it's really healthy for us to see life through different lenses and to catch ourselves and pause and recognize that not everybody wants or needs what we know. And in order to really be a healing influence, we have to pause and recognize that, hey, I see the glass as half full. Donal sees it as half empty. We each have our different perspective. And one of the first ingredients of this pause, presence, and proceed is first we pause and we recognize how we see the world. And then also, all good things must come to an end. So, have you ever seen a good concert pianist? When they come out on stage, what do they do before they break into their art? They pause. How about a high diver? You ever see the high diver, the Olympic high diver? They go on the edge of the platform, and then whoosh, they pause. Isn't this work that we do important enough for us to pause before we express this art? And why is that so important is, we would argue, that we need to pause to first recognize how we've been conditioned, how our mind has been shaped through our education, through our experiences, where we were raised. Should we pause?
Yeah, we're going to dive in, so we got to pause.
Head first.
Yeah.
And recognize we're just going to be silent. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel uneasy? Does it really, I really needed this?
Bored?
It is what it is. Mm-hmm. As we talk about mindfulness without judgment. 30 seconds. Focus on whatever you want, but you focus on one thing well. Pause. You can do it for an hour if you want, but you don't need to. Imagine doing that before you enter each room, before you walk through that threshold of that special place.
You could have that special, what the heck am I doing this for moment many times a day.
Yeah. What a treat. Michael Ballant said this very well. By far the most frequent drug used in general practice was the doctor himself. It was not the bottle of medicine or the box of pills that mattered, but the way the doctor gave them to his patient. That's what matters. But let's look at how we've been conditioned. We are conditioned in this find it, fix it model that someone comes in with a symptom, I give them a diagnosis, I give them a treatment, I get reimbursed, I have a DRG code. That's how we've been conditioned in our work. And the system is changing very quickly to where we're now focusing how do we improve value of care. And we would argue that in order to really enhance value of care, we have to honor that relationship. We have to honor that insight, that human bond that gives us the most accurate diagnosis. Have you remember Marcus Welby? Everybody? Yeah? I used to come home 6 p.m. and watch this with my dad, and he just would make me feel good. He was a caring, compassionate companion. Go 40 years into the future of the Hollywood icons in medicine now. What do we honor? We honor the technology, the really smart person who can do the differential diagnosis, but he's kind of a jerk, you know? With the technology expanding so quickly, have you seen Dr. Watson, this computer that IBM developed that beat the two biggest money winners in Jeopardy? WellPoint Health Insurance is now putting that computer in many of our primary care health clinics. We're not going to have to memorize a differential diagnosis 10 years from now. But one thing the computer will never be able to do is have intuition, compassion, empathy, and caring. This is going to be much more valued in the physician of the future than it is now. So hopefully we'll have Marcus Welby with an iPhone, right? You know, we'll be able to use the technology in a caring and kind way.
The other thing we could say about that is that what's House's life like? You know, so forget the patients. You could say, well, I don't need a surgeon to be nice. I just need him to cut the right thing out, right? But what about the poor surgeon? You know, what's their life like if they go through like this guy?
Alan Boyden, in honor of this lecture, spoke about the holistic need of the patient. He realized the importance of what the outcomes would mean if we took that view after the surgery. So just a deep bow to the person who set this up. How about the ICD-10? This is coming out. This is a good example of how we've been enculturated into a find it, fix it, label it model. And I heard this on NPR. I couldn't believe it, so I went and I Googled it, and sure enough, there's 140,000 diagnoses, like 50% more than there was in ICD-9. And there's a code, W6162XA. Guess what your patient has if you give them that code? Any ideas? Someone guessed it yesterday. I couldn't believe it. Struck by a duck. Struck by a duck. How about this other one? V9107XA. Any ideas? Burned due to water skis catching on fire. Now, the thing that upsets me is that to which we give attention grows, right? We have really smart, intelligent people working on this. Struck by a duck. Is that really helping us deal with childhood obesity, mental health needs? What if we took that energy and really shifted it to the outcomes we really want to see? Does it even hurt to be struck by a duck? I don't know. This is our liberal Madison bureaucracy expands to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy. This is one of our favorite studies, one of my favorite studies. And we always like to say all the fun studies were done in the early 1970s before the IRB was developed. But this is a wonderful human nature study that shows how we've been conditioned in the medical field. Okay, these are 8, quote, sane people. In California, they went to 8 different psychiatric hospitals and presented with the complaint of I'm hearing thuds. Okay? After they were admitted to the hospital, 4 psychologists, a psychiatrist, a pediatrician, a painter, a homemaker, after each one was admitted to the hospital, they acted as sane as they possibly could. The researchers wanted to know what diagnoses they would be given and how long they'd be in the hospital. Okay? If I was a doctor or nurse, I was trained to see things as diagnostic codes. You hear thuds, what does my mind go to? Schizophrenia. What diagnosis were they all given by the doctors and nurses? Schizophrenia in remission. In remission. Now, they then looked and saw what's the average length of stay that these 8 sane people would have to be in the hospital. What do you think? Pretty close. 19 days. One of these poor souls was in there for 52 days. 52 days for sanity. And it wasn't the doctors or the nurses who made the accurate, authentic diagnosis. You know, I would have done the same thing. That's how I was trained to do my job. I've been conditioned that way. Guess who was able to make the accurate diagnosis? The other patients. The ones they went to group with, the ones they went to therapy with, the ones they ate with, the ones they developed a relationship with, saw them beneath their labels, and they said, I don't think you should be here. You know? You're not like the rest of us. Now, isn't that a beautiful experiment? It was the schizophrenics who made the accurate diagnosis. But it causes us to pause and recognize this system, which is not right or wrong, it just is. But how this system encourages us maybe not to look at health first. We really look at disease first. And how can we create a better balance? William James says, genius means little more than the faculty of perceiving in an unhabitual way. I think that's so true. That in order for us to be genius, we have to recognize, pause, recognize how I've been conditioned. Maybe talk to someone who sees the glass as half empty. Or talk to a chaplain, or talk to a humanities professor. Talk to someone who sees life completely different. And then maybe work with them together to try and improve healthcare.
Can I just say, the one thing that I focused on at the noon talk was that the possibility that by pausing and seeing all of the networks in our brain that are happening right now, all the behaviors and memories and images that are being suggested and primed by the current situation, sure, one of them is going to be a habit, but these other ones are going to be less habitual. So by pausing, I can access all that data and proceed accordingly. So this idea of, can we use our habits? Can we use that automaticity and that training without being captured by it, without being limited by it? And the claim would be that the answer is yes, and that it's almost, not quite, as simple as just pausing and checking it out, which is what our presence, pause and presence thing is talking about.
And you talked about yesterday about, you know, it's kind of like going sledding down a hill. You know, the disease model, we're really good at that. That path, that neural network has been laid down because we've gone down that with our sled a lot of times. The health model, we gotta work at it, right? We gotta get a running jump and start until that path is laid down. But the evolution of healthcare is going towards that new path that we need to get used to doing. We need to get our sled down there more and more. And that's the exciting thing about seeing this happen. Do you see any movement there? Is there any movement going on? Sometimes this works better than others. I had to take Dramamine the first time I saw this. That's cheating, man. So if you do see some movement, focus on just one of the almonds. Just one well. And if there was some movement there, what happens to the movement? It stops. It's not really moving. It gives us the illusion of movement because we're trying to multitask. It creates like that. Nystagmus, we're trying to focus on multiple things, multitasking. So we don't see things as they truly are. We see things as we are. And this has been proven in the literature time and time again. Actually, how I believe actually influences what I see. That's why our pause is so important. So this awareness, this pause, leads to this awakening to what's really happening around us, the authentic diagnosis of what a patient really needs. That connects us to the authenticity, and that connects us to this mystery and awe that we'll never be able to quantify in our science. But we all, I think, humans realize, and that's why we're going to listen to some music, or you see those things happen, or you connect with a flower, those things that really allow us to appreciate this spiritual dynamic of being human.
Or you sit with someone who's dying, and you feel you're present to that. So it's this idea here of awe has this sort of, positive quality to it, which is great. But I don't want anyone to leave the room thinking mindfulness is about bliss or it's about just the positive. It's about being present to what actually is. And sometimes, that stinks, what is. It's being present even to that. So that's the sense that we mean authenticity here. And there is some real awe, even in the kinds of deep pain that many of you have probably experienced.
Yeah, thank you. So if we're going about our day on autopilot, right, without the pause, I go by this tree. I've seen a zillion trees. I know what a tree looks like. I think it's a tree, but if I pause and I give it my full attention, I say, that's not really a tree. That's plastic. It's not until I pause and I really experience it that I make the authentic diagnosis. And the beautiful thing about sitting with suffering, who wants to sit with suffering? No one wants to sit with suffering, but that's the window towards healing, is to be brave enough, because when we're really dealing with what really is happening, and this is the beauty of nature, when we're dealing with authenticity, the closer we get to it, the more beautiful it becomes. I got a macro lens for Christmas. I love macro photography. All right, so we talked about the importance of pause. We need to first pause before we can be present. And I'm going to have Donal talk about the definition of mindfulness.
So one of the things I like to do with mindfulness is I like to kind of strip away the saffron robeness of it. So I like this definition here, which is paying attention to what's happening right now on purpose without judgment. So notice in a way how deliciously mundane this is. The cough, right? We just pay attention to what's happening right now. I've got an itch, without judgment. Isn't that, in a way, it's kind of like if we're going to do this together, the challenge is, can you do that? It's so simple, right? Can't you just pay attention to what's actually happening right now without judgment? Suppose I have the thought crosses like a cloud in front of my mind. It says, boy, you really botched that. Can I see that thought, be present to it without judgment? And the reason why I focus sometimes on the dark cloud or the negative is because for many of us, that's the hard stuff to be present to. I could be present all day long to the good stuff I do. Give me more of that. But the stuff that points out kind of the flaws and the cracks, that's a little bit harder to be with. So I think what we're going to do is now, we had some silence before we dove into the pool. Now we're going to swim. There are seats available. I don't know if people want to, come down. Maybe people could move to the center. Have you ever done that before? I'll draw a center for you, and people could go like this, and then people from the back could sit. So one person moved. That was impressive. Thank you.
Old habits are hard to change.
Okay, we'll give some folks a chance to sit. And because nobody moved, they're saying you could just lay in the aisle here for all they care. I'm just kidding. All right, great. So what I'm going to do is just lead you through some really simple mindfulness. And of course you can ignore what I say if you wish, and you could do whatever you want to do. But this is an opportunity to practice this simple thing of paying attention. So what I'd first like you to do is just, you can close your eyes. The idea there is just to kind of remove distraction, because there's more to pay attention to if our eyes are open. It's harder. So if you close your eyes or look at a carpet square or the person's head in front of you, something like that. Just made everybody self-conscious of the back of their heads, haven't I? Anyway, all you have to do is close your eyes, sit up straight, put your feet on the floor, flat on the floor, and just notice the sounds in the room. This is kind of a grounding part of this. The cough, the sound of my voice, people breathing. I can hear the fan. And feel what it's like to sit in your chair, to have the weight pressing against you, the floor supporting your feet. And then when you're ready, I'd like to invite you to focus on your breath. And I'd suggest the rise and fall of your belly and chest as you breathe. And I'd suggest furthermore that you count your breaths. So every time you breathe out, you count 1. Next time you breathe out, you count 2. And when you get to 10, you're going to start over at 1. And if you lose track, you start over at 1. If you get higher than 10 and you find yourself, oh, I'm on 15 or 20, I need to return my attention to the breath and start my count over at 1. So notice where your attention is right now. Bring your attention back to your breath. Both are important. Noticing the thought that I have to do my laundry when I get home, and then returning my attention to my breath. See if you can do it. See if you can get up to 10. Only 40 minutes left of this. Notice your thought, notice your reaction, and return your attention to your breath. I'm bored. Would you please stop this already? Notice the thought and return your attention to your breath. And I'd like to invite you to kind of stay in this mode, whatever mode this is. And I'm going to sing you a love song that I wrote, inspired by patients that I've had. My goal is to make you feel as uncomfortable as possible. I wish you knew, I I love you just the way you are. Molten lead inside those stormy eyes. The little girl you try to hide behind. The hopelessness you kept below the ground. It's springing up now, that's how hope gets found. They touch me by being everything you be. Inspire me, breathing everything you breathe. You gift me by receiving in the way you do. I love you, I wish you knew the you I do. I love you, I wish you knew the you I do. The deepest well, the petty ugliness you found, the emptiness, where even heartbeats make no sound. The world will tear your flesh and grind your bones. I'll hold your broken heart and kiss your soul. You touch me by being everything you be. Inspire me, breathing everything you breathe. You gift me by receiving in the way you do. I love you, I wish you knew the you I do. I love you, I wish you knew the you I do. I'm holding on to something, all of you I am. Holding on to something, all of you I am. Holding on to something, all of you. Touch me by being everything you be. Inspire me, breathing everything you breathe. You gift me by receiving in the way you do. I love you, I wish you knew the you I do. I love you, I wish you knew the you I do. I do, I do, I love you, I wish you knew the you I do. So I alluded to this before. This it's a work of art that appeared in New York, and it goes along with a quote from Carl Jung. And the quote is this: "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And I think he smiled when he said this next part. This procedure, however, is disagreeable and therefore not very popular. Sign me up for some of that, right? So mindfulness is being aware, in terms of mindfulness, being aware is the act of integrating all parts of ourself. It's remembering all aspects of who we are. And that is really not the story of who we are. It's who we are in this moment, which is the itch, the thought, the emotion, the multiple thoughts, the multiple issues, the multiple emotions that are arising right now. And of course, now, there's different thoughts, emotions, and sensations happening. So it's this moment-to-moment respect for what's actually happening in you. And since that's the only way we ever know reality, I don't know, what the heck, let's pay attention. Without judgment. And notice that she, God, I can't believe I got to 11 with my count. Right? So the thing to do there is you just judged yourself, right? You just said, like, I failed, right? Maybe somebody thought, God, you idiot, you always mess stuff up, right? So then you notice that thought. Mindfulness is merciless. It says now you get to notice the thought, I'm an idiot, and return your attention to your breath. I failed. Notice the thought and return your attention to your breath. Integrating all parts of ourselves. Did you know this? That authenticity is associated with less depression, anxiety, lower stress, greater subjective vitality, and lower physical symptoms? And that the more distinct you are across different roles, when I'm talking to my colleague, I'm kind, respectful, and decent. And when I'm talking to you, I'm a jerk. So the more distinct I am across roles, the less well-being I have. Mindfulness has been found to be effective for this list of things, including, interestingly, chronic pain and fibromyalgia. One of the best studies in the literature has shown the fibromyalgia effect. It affects the brain. I could go into that. And it also affects the immune system in positive ways. It's been found to work with a bunch of different populations, ranging from cancer patients to healthcare professionals who really need it. Decreases their burnout, their stress, their anxiety. And now it's you.
Yeah, so maybe you saw this published in Archives of Internal Medicine, just to the significant amount of burnout that we have in our profession. You know, this is the 50% burnout rate. So emergency medicine, general internal medicine, family medicine, I would argue that a lot of the reason for this burnout is we're being asked to fit complexity into shorter and shorter time slots. So we did what Elizabeth is going to do in this class that she's offering, is we condensed this mindfulness course, this pause, presence, and proceed, into a weekend intensive. And we took 30 primary care doctors, and this was our study group compared to other professions. This is the emotional exhaustion on the Maslow burnout scale. Depersonalization is the other one, right there in red. And it worries me that primary care docs and teachers have the most depersonalization of all these professions. Probably some of the two professions that need personalization the most. So we looked at these group and we taught them mindfulness. I think the reason this was published in Annals of Family Medicine was that we looked at people over 9 months. And we looked at their depersonalization that went down, their emotional exhaustion went down, but even the bigger findings were look at anxiety, stress, and depression after 9 months that persisted. So sign up for Elizabeth's class, and Dave and Jeff. This is an opportunity for us to explore ourselves, to pause. This study was published in Nature. I love this study. It was a unique study that they took 2,200 adults, and they gave them an app for their iPhone, and at random times throughout the day, their phone would ring, and it would ask them to ask these 3 questions. How are you feeling right now? What are you doing right now? Are you thinking about something other than what you're doing? So they wanted to assess multitasking. Are we focusing on one thing well, without judgment, or am I multitasking? The y-axis down here is how happy they were, more happy, less happy. The power of the group is the size of the circle, so that's the number. And the bottom line is, the more we were focused on one thing well, the less wondering to this question, the more happier we are. I always like to look at the extremes of the data. I think that's an opportunity to learn. So how can we be happiest? Well, we can make love, right? We're focused on one thing well. But who in their right mind, while they're doing that, are going to answer their cell phone and say, how are you feeling right now? I'm feeling pretty good. What are you doing? I'm making love. So we got to look at human complexity. And this study, maybe you've heard of, it's called the Good Samaritan study. I love this study, again, a 1970s study, where they took Princeton students, seminary students, men and women learning about spirituality, and they wanted them to go give a talk on being a good Samaritan at a next building over. Before they went to give their talk on being a good Samaritan, they read the parable in the Bible on the Good Samaritan. And they divide them up into 3 groups. They said the first group, you've got plenty of time, go on over there, prepare your talk, give your talk on being a good Samaritan. The second group, time's short, it's getting a little late, get on over there, give your talk on being a good Samaritan. The third group, you're late. They're going to be pissed off, get on over there, give your talk on being a good Samaritan. And they all had to walk through a corridor where they planted a man suffering in pain. And they wanted to know who would stop of these seminary students going to give a talk on being a good Samaritan. And you might imagine, those who had plenty of time, most all stopped to help the man. You know the outcome. The second group, majority stopped, but some walked on by. In the third group, you're late. Most of them walked on by, and this is actually in the paper if you read it. One student actually hurtled over the poor dude. that he actually hurtled over the very thing that they're going to teach about. Now, I've caught myself doing that a ton of times in primary care. I shut off the acid pump because I don't have enough time to understand or listen to the story of what's eating them up inside. Our technology allows me to get in and out quick, but it really just suppresses a symptom without really understanding what the body needs to self-heal. And that's our opportunity. So Frank and Frank defined healing of any encounter with these 4 main ingredients. That you have an emotionally charged relationship. Relationship is so key with a helping person. You go to a healing setting. This might be a clinic, a hospital, a synagogue, a best friend's house. You go to a place to expect healing. At that place, you get an explanation for your symptoms. And that explanation is so powerful. When I was a country doctor before coming into academia, a little small town, Driggs, Idaho. Anybody been there? Oh, how good. I was there, one of 2 doctors, and if I had to pick one drug I thought worked better than anything else, I would have picked fluoxetine. People come in, they tell me their story, we listen, we care about each other, and I tell them, this isn't your fault, this is low serotonin. And I write fluoxetine, 20 milligrams, and then I rip it off the prescription pad, which we did back then, and we hand it to them, right? And the angels start to sing. La! And what do we give all the power to? Fluoxetine. Now, with some of the research I want to share with you, I believe that that's misplaced. If you look at the research of SSRIs for mild to moderate depression, not anxiety, not severe depression, but mild to moderate depression, you work just as good with placebo as active drug. The ceremony and ritual of caring about someone, giving them a sense of control over their symptoms, and giving them an opportunity to transcend their suffering is healing that we don't give enough credit to. And we both need to believe in this. So I tell our residents, look at the research for acupuncture for knee osteoarthritis, because if you believe in it, that belief is going to be contagious. But if you say, we've tried everything else, you might try acupuncture, and you didn't look at the research, then you're not going to get as much out of that, even though there's good intrinsic value of that therapy. So this is a retrospective study of psychiatrists who are really good at developing rapport with patients for depression and those who weren't so good at developing rapport. The downward rectangles were those who improved or healed from depression. The upward were those who didn't. Long story short, those good psychiatrists who were able to develop a therapeutic rapport did better with placebo than these doctors with active drug. You trump. You can trump what you prescribe. We looked at the research. We had NIH funding. Bruce Barrett was a PI on this, and we looked at the literature to see what are the main nonspecific variables that happen within the healing encounter that matter most in this healing effect. Positive prognosis. We would tell people, we studied the common cold, hey, you know what? Usually these colds last 8 days, but you eat vegetables, you got great air exchange. I bet you'll get better in 5 days. We gave them a positive prognosis. Number 2, we educated them. We gave the virus a name. You've got rhinovirus. Versus, I don't know what you got, some viral syndrome. Let's see you back in 2 weeks. The data shows that if we name it, you got rhinovirus. And truthfully, right, we don't make things up. You probably do have rhinovirus. They get better quicker. Empowerment. How can I empower them to take care of themselves? Go home, eat your grandmother's recipe for chicken noodle soup, get some rest, spend time with your dog. What can you do? And then connection. When we did this study, we actually had to take acting lessons with a coach where we had the mental belief of connection or disconnection when we went into that room, because we studied the clinician effect. We either had a good clinician or a not so good clinician. When I pulled the connection card or the augmented visit, I connected with them, or I didn't. And then the last thing was empathy, and this was the biggest factor we found in our study. And it's important that we define what empathy is. Empathy means that we listen to the story and feel it. We actually feel it. Then we repeat the story back to the patient so they know we heard them. Really an important ingredient. I hear that you feel this way because of this. And then the third ingredient of empathy is action. We actually put action to that story or what we heard that the patient needs. That's different from sympathy. Sympathy means we cry together and go home. There's no action. There's no repeat. My daughter shared this video with me, and I thought this was a good example of not really being empathetic and making sure that what you're instructing was adequately interpreted. Maybe you've seen this.
Okay, then Lauren's going to catch you. Okay, it's called the trust fall. Okay, trust fall. Ready, set, go.
You don't want to do that, right? But how often does that happen in the practice of medicine? Boy. All right, so this is our study. Kapchuk out of Harvard did the same study with irritable bowel syndrome. It was published in BMJ. Our study was on the common cold. We divided people into 3 groups, an enhanced encounter, a standard encounter, and a no-doc encounter. We then looked at interleukin-8 and nasal neutrophils, so an inflammatory cytokine and a neutrophil, which is a marker of our immune response. And we found that those patients who perceived us as perfect in empathy, and we found empathy is not something that you can judge on a Likert scale. It's either they feel it or they don't. Those who felt it, full empathy, had a significant increase in their nasal neutrophils, a significant increase in their interleukin-8 compared to the not-so-good doc versus the control. Now let's look at the duration of the common cold. The most common infectious disease on this planet was reduced by 1.11 days from the not-so-good doc to the perfect empathy versus no visit. It also reduced the severity. But I want you to look at this here a little bit. Look at the no visit versus the burned out doctor. You could actually do harm. These people did better staying home and eating their grandmother's chicken noodle soup and being licked by their dog than going and seeing a burned out, unempathetic doctor. It's important for us to realize. And what happens to empathy in medical school? This was published in Academic Medicine. This group is women. Women come in with more empathy than men generally. But if you want to turn a man into a woman, or a woman into a man, send them to medical school. But look at what we do. We actually train empathy out of students. And we're starting to realize that we need to make a change. This is a study also looking at perception of empathy and diabetes control of LDL and hemoglobin A1C. Bottom line is that the more empathy the patient perceived in their doctor, the better their hemoglobin A1C and LDL, an isolated controlled variable.
One thing to say about this is if we have to deal with day after day after 15 minutes with the kind of suffering and sickness and personalities that come into the office, I would say there's sort of 2 ways to learn how to deal with that. The quick, easy way to learn how to deal with that is to shut it off, be all business, and go forward. The harder way to deal with that is to go full circle and be able to actually hold that stuff, see it, be with it, and then move on. But that latter is hard. It takes training. It's not for sissies. So it makes sense to me from an outsider perspective that medical school would say, look, if you want to get through your day and not burn out, right, you're not going to be able to connect with everybody. It's too intense. As a psychologist, I would hold up the fantasy of a higher standard. It says, I can train you to do that, but it's hard. And you got a lot of hard stuff. So maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to do the shutdown route. Maybe that's better from that perspective.
And that's why we need a break or a vacation or to take the mindfulness course, right? Because it causes us to pause. Because if we get close to burnout, we might need to give our patients oxytocin before we see them. This study was actually just published 3 weeks ago in JAMA, where they gave 75 male volunteers either nasal oxytocin or nasal saline. They then call this the love potion, right? Because it's what moms secrete after giving birth to a baby. It's what happens to the whole wolf pack after a wolf pack pup is born in the wolf pack. It actually enhances our trust and our empathy. And this study that gave 2 creams, which are the same cream, but they told the patients that one is an anesthetic cream and the other one is an inert control. They then zapped both arms. And the reduction in pain for the control, the inert control, same cream, was 7 points on their pain scale. And for the oxytocin, it was 12.84 points, a difference of 57.83%. So if I don't have vacation, I'm going to have my nurse say, load that patient up with nasal oxytocin. So maybe they'll respond better to my treatment, right? Or what can we all do, which we all know we can do without the oxytocin, is just do what we love to do. Really bond with patients and develop that rapport, because if we do that, that'll raise oxytocin levels. So what we're trying to talk about here is how do we make this our meditation practice? So it's important to sit on your cushion, right? It's important to do the practice. But what if our work, our every step is our practice? How do we make this clinical job that we have our opportunity to pause, be present, and mindful, and then proceed towards action? And there's an old Buddhist saying that says, wisdom without action is useless, and action without wisdom is dangerous. So in our opportunity to really learn from our patient, we need to take that wisdom and put action to it. These are some of the things that we can do. We actually have a whole health-oriented session. We call it a salutogenesis-oriented session, where we actually have a clinical visit that incorporates all these ingredients. It's different from our earache or our well-child check or our annual visit. We actually create a visit that protects time, creates space for this healing encounter. We create patient expectations, we're fully present, and we listen. We offer support, we collaborate, we recruit other professionals, we create a plan, and most importantly, we do our own work. That it's very hard to do this for others until we've done it for ourselves. We're trying to teach this to our medical students and our residents, that your first patient is yourself. And we're hoping that will increase their professionalism, their happiness in their work, their ability to form meaningful, lasting relationships. Jim Finley taught me this, and it really helped me understand how to make this shift. When I used to think, oh, it's my job to fix all the fibromyalgia. How often can we do that? Not very often. We're setting ourselves up for burnout. But when I shifted that intent from seeing that person as, oh, that's Betty with a story, and after I listened to that story, it makes complete sense that her hypersensitivity is turned up in her myofascia. And then I have now the mindset of how can we work together or walk together towards a better place. And Jim Finley teaches this. He's a spiritual teacher out of California. And he says, many of the patients we see are standing in their circle of suffering. And in order for us to do our work, we need to be standing in what gives our work, our lives, meaning and purpose. That if we step outside of that and put both of our feet into their circle of suffering, we will burn up quicker than a matchstick. That one of the most important things for us to do this very important work is to maintain one foot grounded in what gives me. My definition is going to be different than yours. You got to figure it out yourself. Mine is my family. I sometimes have a rock in my pocket that my then 8-year-old son found for me. You know, that's what gives me strength to take this foot and step into their suffering. And then hopefully we give them permission to step outside. And then we start dancing. It's a therapeutic dance. Sometimes we have to lean in. Sometimes we lean out. Sometimes we dance to the blues. Sometimes we dance to reggae. But that's the joy of this work, is we develop this therapeutic dance that we change constantly based on our environment. And it's fun. It energizes me. I love this work. It's an honor. So we're going to end here. But before we do that, we are going to ask that you just hopefully recognize our old habits, our pause, labeling things as obese or chronic pain or depression, and try and shift things, maybe as the glass half full would portray, that maybe we look at it as optimal weight or myofascial health. And instead of saying, hey, you got chronic recurring depression, maybe we just shift the same person, the same condition, but instead of chronic recurring depression, we say, hey, I think you're potentially happy. You know? In order to help you be happy, who do we need to help you get there? And tell me what you feel you need to be happy. And then we shift. But it's also important to focus on the depression. Would you say, Donal?
Well, I mean, the thing about that is that there's information there, is all, right? If something's making you feel bad, that's important. If you've got a thorn in your foot, you're feeling pain, you recognize the source of that, and you pull the thorn out. And if we're busy ignoring the thorn, we develop, I don't know, you know what we develop better than I do when you don't take out a thorn. It's not good. So it's just this idea of just simply paying attention. We don't need to be afraid of that negative emotion, that unpleasant emotion. We don't need to be afraid of the happiness either. They're both parts of the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we come to an end, Donald's going to end with a song, another little treat, and then we will have opportunity for some question and answer, but I know some people have to leave. So culture is hard to change. This is our challenge in Wisconsin. It's like changing our food pyramid, which is very, very difficult. You know, it's hard to shift a culture. It's hard to shift medical belief. But I love to look at yogis because they believe they can do it. They have this air exchange. They have this ability to put their body in different positions because they believe that we can. And I think the most important thing I do, this is Dave's belief, most important ingredient is I believe you can heal. I give the patient the permission. And if I can help you, great, but boy, there's a lot of other professionals that we can recruit to help enhance your body's ability to heal. So this is yoga in India. This is yoga in Wisconsin. It's a little bit different. But the challenge, and I know this isn't really, I mean, it's a little too close to be funny, too close to be truth. But what we're talking about here is, what if you were able to connect with this person and really listen deeply and pause and understand what they needed to give their life meaning and purpose? And then there would be less need for the false spirit, right? The false spirit is a temporary glimmer of bliss that's inauthentic, so it doesn't last. And this is why that spiritual work is so important. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous is the best thing we have for the most difficult addiction on the planet. Is that what if we connect through our caring, which is Providence's mantra, right? It's how we care. What if we do that? It's real rewarding to this work.
I got some bubble gum and tight blue jeans. Got starlight in my eyes, my head is full of diamond rings. I don't know nothing about planetary things, but when I'm quiet enough, I hear the canaries sing. We need another Jesus, we need another FDR, we need another Buddha. And Rosa Parks, we need another roomie. We need another Gertrude Stein. We need you, we need me, we need we. I know tractors, I can fix most anything. My dad's a tracker, he can light a fire in the pouring rain. I don't know nothing about planetary things, but I know family sticks together in any kind of weather. And we're all family and we need another Jesus, need another FDR, we need another Buddha. And Rosa Parks, we need another roomie. We need another Gertrude Stein. We need you, we need me, we need we. Forever loyal, you will never tread on me. Don't worry about peak oil, my veins are full of gasoline. I don't know nothing about planetary things, but in this foxhole I can hear the canaries sing. And we need another Jesus, we need another FDR, we need another Buddha. And Rosa Parks, we need another roomie. We need another Gertrude Stein. We need you, we need me, we need we. And as I look upon this silent, screaming street, I see a ghost with shadow scars. One by one, at first there's just a few, got their hearts in mason jars. They start to glow, deep and red and slow, until we're blazing like a billion mighty stars. My hat is backwards, got my pants down to my knees. My family tree's got bullets for its canopy of leaves. But you're my brother, so take shelter from this storm. Don't understand a word you say, but a bond is being formed. And we need another Jesus, we need another FDR, we need another Buddha. And Rosa Parks, we need another roomie. We need another Gertrude Stein. We need you, we need me, we need we. We need you, we need me, 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 we need we need we.
Donal, thank you very much. We now have about 20 minutes for Q&A, and if I just ask Donal or Dave to repeat the question as it said.
Thank you, Nick. Please.
Well, I just wanted to help you with your future talk because Oregon has influenced the ICD-10, and struck by a duck actually is a football injury.
So we heard that struck by a duck is a football injury. We also heard that there's a struck by a beaver. Is that true? Is there a report for that?
We tried to find that this morning.
We
couldn't
did.
find
We
it.
couldn't find it. Please.
I have a quick reinforcement of what you've been saying. In psychology, over the last 15 years, we've done outcome studies of successful therapy. And the best predictors of successful therapy, number one, the motivation of the patient. If you want to stop smoking, you come see me. Your motivation will result in outcome. Second, the relationship. We call that the therapeutic alliance. And the distant third, the methods and techniques that we use.
So just for the audience who might be listening, biggest factors that influence positive outcomes are empowerment, are they committed, the therapeutic relationship, and then a distant is the technique we use.
I threw in the distant.
No, I think I've seen that study, and you're right, it is quite distant, yeah. So I don't think that's inaccurate. Thank you. Please.
You spoke about empathy, the listening, the repeating back, and then action. Can you give us an example of action?
Well,
So the question is,
Oh, yeah.
empathy includes summarizing, it includes feeling it, and it includes action. And what can Dave give an example of action?
yeah, you too.
Or I can give an example.
You have Epic now? Are you on Epic?
Yes.
So we're on Epic. And an action for me is we do these integrated medicine consults, but I'm also a primary care doctor. But after every one, I have a list of a health plan. It's one of my dot phrases, health plan. Here's what I heard you say. This is what we're going to do about it. And 9 times out of 10, I'm just a mirror for what they tell me, right? What's really important to you? Okay, let's invest in that. You know, what do you feel? I always say feel, not what do you think, because then they have to have the right or wrong answer. But when you ask, what do you feel is at the root of this illness? It gives them permission to say the dumbest things, right? That are really important for us to know. So I might repeat that back to them. All right, let's explore that. Or let's negate that belief because it may not be accurate. But a list will actually have a hard copy that we say, okay, here's what we're going to do together, and then we'll see you back in 2 to 3 weeks and see how that's going. Or here's the people, here's a psychologist or the nutritionist I want you to work with in the meantime. Here's my health team. And then we plan it out. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of different time scales, and this may be unsatisfying, but so if I'm really on my game and I'm feeling empathy for someone, my body language changes. I don't try to change it. It just does change. So action, I think, in some cases, at least at that micro level, just flows naturally from being in touch with, me, my reactions, them, their reactions. And so it's just interesting for me to think about those. It might mean I lean forward just a little bit. That's an action. And it's a kind of an iterative process in that case. And of course, yeah, to come up with a plan.
That's the difference between a psychologist and a physician right there. Obviously, I think both are important. Yeah.
You said you went to acting school to be able to, but maybe that was around the connection and not the empathy.
It was. So in order for the study to be standardized, we all had to do it the same way. So the acting coach we had to recreate it across clinicians. But in Europe, they actually have acting coaches come into the medical schools and teach them how to act empathy. Which just seems, it works. Fake it till you make it. It does work. But has everybody ever done laughter yoga? That never works for me because I need something authentic to laugh at. Even though I'm acting empathetic, there's something that's just not right there that makes me a little concerned. But if we're having a really hard time, and I work with a lot of medical students, and sometimes we just need to teach them to act it until they start to feel it more. So I think both are good. But if we can really learn how to do this for ourselves, like loving kindness meditation for ourselves, then it translates, and it's not acting. But yeah, you're right.
You could use the word practice.
Practice, good. Yeah, it's all how we deliver. Excellent. Thank you.
From a practical standpoint, I mean, this is great stuff. However, from a practical standpoint, the financial realities of practice and demands on primary care are getting us further and further away, in my judgment, from this model. Because even though there's, as you say, there's a shift paying for a procedure and a diagnosis toward health, in reality, the pressures on primary care are more and more business and less mindfulness.
Right.
So,
how do we do it
what's a
practically?
guy to do?
Yeah. So the question is, how do we do this in the craziness of our job where the system is actually has this dichotomy of actually encouraging us to be less mindful? Is that fair reproduction? Yeah. So, we always say that's a great question when we don't have the answer.
Well, here, let me give you a chance to think, because I have an answer. Oh,
No,
go
I
ahead.
do.
Oh, you do. Oh,
Please, no, Donald.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yes, I want you to.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll fill in the blanks.
Okay. No, you have to. Just
No,
okay.
I think one patient at a time. I think we can do this, and the systems are encouraging us to work well as teams. Where hopefully it'll be like Norm going into Cheers, where everybody says Norm instead of just one guy. So we get out of the bottleneck of the physician bottleneck of access, and we have clinical team leaders to really reach out, connect, and bond with a population that we're trying to serve to really keep them healthy and happy. There's models doing this. The VA is doing it. The South Central Alaska model in Alaska, the NUCA model is doing this. And so it's possible, but these are growing pains.
But the challenge there is that, when you say relationship, it's very hard for an individual patient or customer or client to have a relationship with the system. It's much easier, the old model, for a doctor to have a relationship with a patient.
I agree. And that's the struggle I have. I love that relationship.
I do too.
I don't want to give it to the nutritionist, right? How would you?
Well, so one other thought is that our brains are pretty fast. So when I think about a pause, I think about, 2 seconds. Anybody got time for 2 seconds? 5 seconds, 10 seconds. So, it's kind of a weak answer. Amen, right? But there's also the fact that, of course, before you go into that next room, you could just take a breath. You can pause. You can be more present with the time you have. So, I hope we're not reduced to only that, but that at least is definitely possible. And the claim would be from a neuroaffective neuroscience perspective, a pause of 5 seconds allows all sorts of things to happen that just reacting off the cuff does not. And if it helps us avoid the 4 horsemen of a relationship apocalypse, which are defensiveness, stonewalling, criticism, and contempt, then that's well worth the pause. I told the story. I'm a nightmare patient. I go into a medical person, and I take a deep breath. I go, okay, I got to take care of this person, so I don't make them feel defensive, so I can get the care I need. So I bring the psychologist in, and I go, okay, how do I treat you, with kit gloves? So that's literally what I'm doing. Pause. Hi, just be real light and friendly. This is what I do when I go into a doctor's office. It goes much better.
But you're kind of using that to manipulate the system.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a drug rep. They're really good at that, right?
Yeah,
they want us to prescribe their
exactly
drugs.
like a drug rep. Thank you.
Yeah, but how do we do that? How do we honor that strategy?
Yeah.
In the best interest of the people we're serving?
Because, I answered my own question. When I have a complex, a positive review of systems, and the person is just going on and on, I pause, I sit there with my pad, I make a differential diagnosis, and then I talk to them. But that pause is probably, in practice what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I answered the question.
Exactly. So just to repeat for the audience out there, that you answered your own question. You do it already. Give yourself credit. You pause in that interview. When you want someone to self-reflect, well, boy, I counted up, you're on 15 medications. Is that similar? Yeah.
And in a sense, in terms of mindfulness is in many ways, I think, just a systematic practice of things that humans have done forever, and that good healers and doctors do already. So it's just a way of kind of embellishing or it's a systematic way of training what we're talking about, as opposed to some other ways which may not be as systematic. Is really one way to think about it, I think.
Please.
So you're talking about relationship-centered care, and both the physician and the patient are part of that. I think this is a paradigm shift in many ways for physicians, but also a paradigm shift for patients who may be used to being recipients of care rather than participants in care. So have you thought about maybe figuring out how to do this with patients as well?
Thank you. And it's a really difficult thing. I mentioned the VA because we're just... Oh, sorry. So the question is, how do we do this when the patient may not be interested? Number one, how do we get them more empowered to take control of their health if they don't want to? And number two, this is a paradigm shift for physicians to give the patient more control. Is that fair? So we're doing this contract with the VA. We have a contract with our program to I don't want to say retrain or enhance training or go through an experience with the clinicians in the VA system. And the three areas that they want to shift their whole culture of care is to become more personalized, proactive, and patient-driven. And this is hard because most vets, many are passive. Okay, what do you have for me? So they're shifting the whole system. One tool, I'll tell you this story really quickly, that Tracy Gaudet tells is this female vet who had type 2 diabetes. And she came in every 3 to 4 months for her hemoglobin A1C and LDL cholesterol check. And she almost felt punitive that, oh, it's not good enough this time. What can I do to make it better? And then one day she realized, well, what do I want my health for? That's a big question. What do I want my health for? And she made up her mind, next time I go see my doctor, I'm going to tell him that I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And she told her doctor that. Initially, the doctor was taken back. Well, no, what about your hemoglobin A1C? No, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and I want you to help me get there. And he said, okay. Every 4 months, they met. What team members do we need? We need a nutritionist, an exercise physiologist. What do we need to get you to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro? And guess what? She got there. And guess what happened to her hemoglobin A1C and her LDL cholesterol? It went down. And guess what happened to the joy in her life and the joy of the physician's life and the joy of the team members who were able to help her get there? It raised everybody's energy because they focused on what mattered. So what we're talking about with EPIC, and we budgeted this out for a grant that we wrote. We didn't get it. But to put a box in EPIC and Snapshot of where the patient can populate, what do you want your health for? So they can tell us. Try it. See if you can put that in your EPIC. Guess how much they charged us to put that in our grant? Almost $300,000 for one box. But look how that would shift the whole culture. If I had, okay, here's my diabetic, they're on this many medicines, what do they want their health for? And it shifts our whole intent. And it's not going to be easy, but just think if we give the voice to who we're serving, and that directs our care. But what if they don't want to have a voice? That's fine. We keep asking. We meet them where they're at.
I think this was something that happened a few decades ago, but there used to be the outdoor model where people would get together in certain businesses and go do a high ropes course or do something like that. And this pause and presence and proceed was kind of interpreted as stillness first, and then a connection, and then the action, and then there was one more part, which was the celebration. That's kind of what you're describing. And there was also in those seasons, the winter is the stillness, and spring is the connection and the coming out. Summer is the action, and then the harvest for the celebration, the coming together. So I like what you were presenting. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope everybody heard that because I couldn't summarize it with just this. But this idea that the outdoor kind of, there's this, it's still, there's this outdoor kind of oriented programs. Businesses sometimes use like a ropes course, things like that. And they emphasize apparently kind of similar things in terms of pausing as maybe stillness and being present in terms of being connected, and action, obviously, the rope. But also this idea of celebration, which I think is really important. And one kind of fun way to think about that for me is that the whole thing is a celebration. It's a celebration in kind of a funny way, because Disneyland's kind of gotten a little bit of monopoly on celebration, This is what celebration looks like, like I got a plastic face and it's always smiling. But different kind of celebration is quieter potentially, and in a way deeper. And as we talked about, it's sort of a kind of a very simple respect and compassion for this moment. It's, in a way, no big deal. It's just a moment, but it's the only one I got right now. So that is kind of a celebration to even just see it and give it the attention it deserves.
You ever seen John Kabat-Zinn do that thing with, what time is it? Oh, it's now. What time is it? Oh, it's now. When we look at our watch, we're thinking about, okay, what do I have to do? Am I late? Oh, it's now. It's just kind of a nice way to shift our perspective.
I think, doesn't Catherine actually have a clock where it says now all the way around it?
I like that.
Question, where am I here?
Yeah, where am I here? Yeah, as Nick says. Yeah, please.
You were talking about how to greet a patient. I was tickled because I've learned from banks that the banks are now, when you enter the bank, you get greeted. You were mentioning greeting earlier.
Right.
One of the things that the banks learn, when they greet a person when they come in, they're actually reducing and preventing bank robberies.
So just to mention the importance of greeting, that first impression of making someone feel welcome and warm and that you care, actually when banks do that, reduces the incidence of bank robberies.
And notice what would happen if you tried to greet him after the gun was out? Oh, hi! That ain't gonna work. And we often do that, I think. We don't have a relationship first. We sort of demand all the currency of a relationship after it's too late.
Please.
I have a question about how your integrator program works at university.
Uh-huh.
I think integrative medicine is a lot of people are looking into it, and you see lots of clinics opening up. Be it, expanding an acupuncture practice or naturopaths with MDs or nutritionists. How do you define integrative medicine and how do you see that being incorporated into systems like Providence?
You got one biased view here. So the question was, how do I define integrative medicine with all the clinics opening up? I think we have the risk. The same thing with nutraceuticals happened in pharmaceuticals. We have the same risk of doing that in these clinics, where we keep working in these silos. And so the reason I mention that is I think what will really bring us together to really learn from each other is initially this field was called CAM, Complementary and Alternative Medicine. And I hated that term alternative because nutrition was considered as alternative. Spirituality was considered alternative. I mean, just didn't make sense. And then integrative meant we need to integrate. That term is coming to an end, I believe. I wish it would. To where it's evolving to is how do we understand how complex systems heal? And if that's our primary intent, what professionals do I need in my team to heal the health needs of my community? That's going to be different if we have a lot of obesity. It's going to be different if we have a lot of pain. So how can these teams come together to really address a health need of the community, the population? We have to do a needs assessment. We have to listen to what our patients are wanting of us. And then we recruit the most effective, most viable team members. And that's Dave's definition of integrative medicine of the future. That we don't need any more clinics and silos. We really don't. But, we work with an acupuncturist in our cancer center, and that's really opening up eyes to say, what? I didn't need as much antiemetic after my chemotherapy when I got that acupuncture. Then we're actually sharing and we're learning together. So, sorry, it's a long answer, but if you ask 10 people that question, you'll probably get 10 different answers. But I think what we need is a new excellence in how we work together as teams to really understand what complex systems need to heal and talk about complexity. We are all a good example of that.
Probably have time for one more question if there is one.
Do you want to be last question?
Okay. I was wondering about the doctor that is pretty businesslike and everything, and then at the very end, he'll say, okay, now come on, give me a big hug. That almost seems like it's taking a shortcut that's not really doing the whole empathy thing, but thinking as he walks out that he has.
Yeah, I certainly have an opinion about that. I guess I have several. One is that it can be experienced by people as a violation, right? That it's not okay. We don't have the relationship for you to give me a hug. And this idea that there's sort of a formula. Like if I give the hug, then the relationship's there. And I think it often comes from a place that's so sort of transparently fake. It's sort of like I would hug the guy to make him feel better about the fact that he did that. You know what I mean? I'd be like, okay, yeah. So I go back, I think, Dave, you were talking about this sort of training, sort of fake it till you make it, which I think is true. But I also think, let's make it. Let's actually have someone discern, is this appropriate? Is it, because sometimes, I'm a pretty, I don't know, with this group, I'm a pretty soft-hearted guy. I sang a love song to you, right? It's very rare that I would hug a client. Very rare. Some of my colleagues would say you never do. I don't agree with that either. But there are times, for sure, where to me, it's absolutely, of course, that's what you do. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I think it's also a good example that if we don't get to know them first, my perception, I like to hug people, but some people don't like to be hugged.
Right.
And if I don't take the time to get to know them, I might project my "I think you need a hug" belief inappropriately.
And also, it's not about you.
Right.
It's about the patient. So what I always try to do as a psychologist, of course, right, is arrive as my full self, but then use my reactivity. I didn't like that internally, right? Probably it shows a little bit. But I'm noticing, and then I have this hypothesis, right? Well, is this the way that other people feel, right, when they interact? And then that's information. I can use that. And so the hug, right, is all about, it's never all about, but as honestly as one can be, it's all about what they need. And so I might want a hug, and then I check that. I literally would pause. I'd literally say, okay, I'm checking this out. Hug. Hypothesis of hug. I kind of taste it like you might wine. I don't know wines, but you taste it, right? You do that. Can we do that with a moment? Can we go, is this? And sometimes, the networks in my brain kind of say no. And sometimes it's a mystery to me why that's the case. I go, well, I don't know why, but I guess I'm not going to. Sometimes when I do that, I get confirmation later. Sometimes I don't. So it's a bit of a mystery. And sometimes when I hug, I go, gee, I don't know. Is this the right thing? I'm making it a little bit more dramatic, but in my head, right? So, and it takes courage in that case, because all I'm really doing is trusting me, little old me, right? I'm trusting, really? Am I going to trust this? But at least in psychology, that's the only tool I got. So I have to. It's an interesting conversation that flows from that question. Thank you.
Donal, Dave, thank you for a wonderful presentation. Thank you.